All right, welcome back. So what we're going to do in this video, as you might have guessed from the rhythm of the lecture so far, is to find the long-run market supply curve. Now, you might be thinking, this is going to be really easy. Right? We started this lecture by talking about short-run firm supply. Then we said to get short-run market supply, we just add up the supply of each firm horizontally. Then we talked about long-run firm supply. We said that it's mechanically the same as short-run firm supply. So far, so good. So you're thinking, great, I'm just going to add up all the long-run firm supplies horizontally, get to a market supply, call it a day. Go for a walk, play some hacky sack, look at a bird, do whatever we want with our afternoon or evening, whenever you're watching this. Now, there's two problems with doing this, though. There's two ways in which long-run market supply is going to be a little bit more complicated than that. The first one, and maybe the more straightforward one, is that in the long run, firms can choose to enter or exit the market. And they're likely to do that, right, to enter the market or exit the market on the basis of whatever the long-run price is. In other words, if I wanted to know how an increase in prices was going to affect supply in a market, I don't just want to know how it's going to affect the decisions of existing firms, right, that can choose labor or capital however much they want. I also want to know, is a higher price going to spur more firms to enter the market? Right, is a lower price going to cause some existing firms to exit the market? And so if we just added up horizontally all the firms that happened to be in the market at a particular moment, we would lose that entire effect, which is going to end up being the dominant effect in the long run. So let's start with that, right? Let's start with understanding how price changes are going to lead to entry and exit of firms from the market in the long run. And to do this, I want to start out with a really, really simple firm. So let's imagine that you've got a business selling burritos on Venice Beach, right? Only need two things for your burrito business. You need labor at a wage of 16, and you need a permit, right? One permit's all you need. And the cost of a permit is going to be $100. Cool? So we can say that you've got a production function, f of LK, equal to, let's say, 8L to the 1/2, if k equals 1, and 0 if k equals 0. Right? All this is saying is if you've got a permit, all you need to produce is labor. You can produce 8L to the 1/2 burritos. If you don't have a permit, you're going to get busted as soon as you show up on the Venice Beach, so you don't produce anything. Cool. So if I knew that in the short run, I'm just at any particular point in time. Let's talk about it in the long run. Let's say that we've got a price equal to 10. Right? If you're a firm that has a permit, right? So if k equals 1, let's think about your costs. Well, we know that Q is just going to have to equal 8L to the 1/2, right? So we know that L to the 1/2 equals Q over 8, or L is going to equal Q over 8 squared, right? So we know that you've got a cost function, C of Q, that's just W L of Q plus R K of Q, right? Just the cost of your inputs. So this is going to be 16 times Q over 8 squared plus 100, right? Is going to be, what's that, 16 over 64. So that's going to be Q squared over 4 plus 100 is our C of Q. Good? Okay. So if I've got a price of 10, how much is a particular firm going to supply? Well, we can do this pretty simply, right? We can just find our marginal cost, set it equal to our price. Right? Marginal cost of Q is going to be 2Q over 4 equals Q over 2. Right? So MC of Q equals P is going to tell us that my supply is going to be Q over 2 equals P, Q equals 2P. Good. And so, of course, at a price of 10, right, I'll just say Q equals 20. Right? I'm going to make 20 burritos. So if that's a particular firm, say that I had 100 firms with permits, right? Then I would just say my firm supply, my market supply would just be 100 times 2p, right, is going to be 200p, or at p equals 10, right, I would supply 2,000 burritos. Good? So far, nothing fancy. So if I wanted to graph my market supply, right, Q and P, it would just be a straight line up, right? A line with the slope, Q of P equals 200p. Cool. Right, so at a price of 10, I would be supplying, the market would be supplying 2,000 burritos. Yeah? So I'll just draw a demand curve here. Make this look like a market equilibrium. Right? So now we want to ask ourselves a question, right? If this is the market equilibrium we've got, right? We've got a price of 10, we've got firms supplying 2,000 burritos. Our firm's going to want to enter or exit the market. So how are we going to do that? Well, all we have to know is, at a price of 10, our firm's profitable, right? If firms are earning positive economic profits, right? They've got profits above zero, that's going to draw new firms in, right? Other people are going to look and say, wow, this burrito game is a really good deal. I should get involved in that, right? I should start my own firm. We'll have entry into the market. If profits are less than zero, right? If economic profits are less than zero for a firm, then firms are going to say, you know, this really isn't worth it. I could be doing better if I was in a different industry. I'm getting out of here. And we'd have exit from the market, right? So the question is, are we going to have economic profits greater or less than zero? So what we want to know, right, is our profit greater than or less than zero? So let's calculate our economic profits. Right, our profits are just going to be our revenues minus our costs, right? So if I'm a firm and I'm producing 20 units of output at a price of $10, right, this is just going to be, the revenue is going to be 10 times 20 minus the costs, right? What's my cost function going to be? My cost function is Q squared over 4 plus 100, right? So 10 times 20 minus 20 squared over 4 plus 100. Awesome. So this is going to end up being, right, 200 minus, well, 20 squared is 400 over 4 is 100. 100 plus 100, right? So we're going to end up with profits of 0. So in this case, because we have profits of 0, no entry, no exit, we're at equilibrium, right? This is our picture. Everything is great. Make sense? But now let's think about what would happen if we had some increase in demand, right? If we found our long-run market supply, that should mean that at a given price, we know how many burritos the market is going to provide. So let's see whether this supply curve we've drawn, right, 200p, which we got by just adding up the supply of all the firms that happen to be in the market at a price of 10. Let's see if that's going to accurately predict what's going to happen if we have an increase in price. So let's say I've got new demand. And if we go along this supply curve, we have a price increase to a price of 20. Cool? So if the price is 20, right, we know that each firm will produce Q of 20 equal to 40, right, equal to 2p. So we've got firms producing 40 burritos each. Let's see if they're making a profit or loss now. Right, so pi of Q is going to equal PQ minus C of Q, right? So this is going to equal 20 times 40 minus 40 squared over 4, right, plus 100. So this is going to be 800 minus 40 squared is 1600 over 4 is 400. So 400 plus 100. So firms are going to be making a profit, right, of 300. This makes sense? We have a price of 20, all of a sudden we're not going to be in a long-run equilibrium anymore because firms are going to be profitable. What happens when firms are profitable? New firms are going to want permits, right? More firms are going to enter the market. What's that going to look like? Well, instead of having our supply curve be 200 times P, right, or 100 times 2P, it'll be something like 150 times 2P or 200 times 2P. So we're going to have a new supply curve that is flatter than our old supply curve, right, in reaction to the increase in price. Right, in reaction to the increase in price, we're going to have more firms enter. That's going to push market supply out so that it's less steep. How far is it going to push it? How many firms are going to enter? Well, we know that if nothing else changes in this story, firms are going to end up breaking even, meaning they're not going to want to enter or exit only when the price is equal to 10. Right? So this is going to keep moving out up until we have a price of 10 at our new demand curve. Right? So we're going to have a new point like this. So essentially what's happening here, right? Demand increases. If there is no entry or exit, we would have had a price increase to something like 20 and an output increase to some modest amount, right, that we didn't even bother to calculate. However, because firms can enter or exit the market, this price increase is going to result in an increase in the number of firms so that we go back to our original price of 10. So what does this imply about the long-run market supply? Well, in this case, it's just going to be a straight line, right? Our long-run market supply is just going to be equal to a horizontal line at P equals 10, right? In other words, we're going to have a market supply curve like Q of P is going to equal 0 if P is less than 10, 0 to infinity if P equals 10, and infinity if P is greater than 10, right? Essentially, if nothing else is changing about this story, the market will supply as many burritos as people can eat or people are willing to eat at a price of 10, no burritos at a price of $9.99, and an unimaginably huge infinite number of burritos at any price above 10. And the crucial point here, right, the determining factor in all of this is that firms enter or exit the market until their economic profits are 0.